Far away in the city of Mittenheim, the troubles facing the Crimson Peaks had gone completely without notice, until today, when a rider from Port Kervion arrived with an urgent missive for the Count Alexander Mitios, lord of the city. The Count read the missive twice before summoning his advisors to the war room. Once assembled, he gazed at the men with an intensity that demanded their attention. "Men! We have received a request for aid from the elvish city of Port Kervion. They are beset by a number of dangerous adversaries, and call for our assistance." A disbelieving murmur spread through the room, and finally Captain Darian Vico spoke up. "My Count, for what reasons should we come to the aid of the elves? It is 100 miles or more through lands claimed by the wild beast herds. They are not such a strong ally that we should take such risks for their sake." Count Mitios looked at his men disappointedly. "Dear Darian, we will go to their aid for 3 reasons. First, my great-grandfather was aided during the battles that founded this city by the same Prince Victus who now calls for our aid. So a debt is owed. Second, it is the right and honorable thing to do to give our assistance to those who need it. And third, it seems that this life of comfort and leisure has softened the spines of my best fighting men, and a bloody battle is just what is needed to temper the steel within you." Captain Vicos turned red, but managed to swallow his anger at the insult. "As you say, my Count." Count Mitios smiled and looked to the other men. "And now, if there are no other objections, prepare your men. We march in 5 days, and may sooner show mercy to any bastards dumb enough to stand in our way." All right. So that was a really fun intro. So I know some of you were expecting a Brawler's Bash game. I had forgotten I still had this battle report to get out first, but I'm going to try and release this and my first Brawlers game at the same time, so no one is disappointed. But tonight is a narrative battle with me bringing in the Empire of Sonnstahl versus the Beast Herds. This is a 4,000 point narrative battle with the breakthrough objective. So let's go ahead and get into discussing the armies. Okay, so up in the middle, and I think this is after Vanguard movement because they don't look like they're in deployment zone at all, he has 2 units of Feral Hounds. Then everything else he castled here in the corner. He has a unit of 6 Minotaurs with full command and the Stalker standard. And they've got the standard double hand weapon and all that fun stuff. With them is also, excuse me, his Minotaur Chieftain, Greater Totem Bearer upgrade. He's the BSB with the Gnarlhide Totem, Blooded Horn Totem, Clouded Eye Totem, and Black Wing Totem. He also has a Dragon Scale Helm and an Obsidian Rock, so he's finally paying attention to that magic resistance, and the Charm of Cursed Icon. Iron, sorry. Then, next to that, is a 31-man strong Longhorn unit, and hanging out in that unit is his Soothsayer with the Scepter of Power, Talisman of Shielding, Dark Rain, and 3 spells to the Path of Shamanism. And his Beast Lord, who has the Blessed Sword, Armor of Fortune, the Obsidian Nullstone, and the Crown of Horns. Next to that is a unit of 3 Raiding Chariots. And, then we go into my side. He also has 2 units of Wildhorn herds that are going to ambush on. I just guess I didn't take a picture of those. So then we'll get onto my side. Starting here on the left, I have a unit of 10 handgunners with a musician. Then there is a unit of 10 state militia with bows and skirmishing. With them is my wizard, who is naked and has 4 spells from the lore of Thaumaturgy. Behind that is a 20-man Imperial Guard unit with great weapons and full command in the Stalker standard. And up in front of that unit, joined with them in the front corner, is my BSB, a marshal with a halberd and the blessed armor of Frederick the Great. Then I have my big old 30-man unit of halberdiers with full command. Hiding in with them is a prelate with paired weapons and no other upgrades. Behind that is my general, Count Alexander Mitios, a marshal with great tactician, lucky shield, and the talisman of greater shielding on a great griffin. He also has a lance. Next to that is my arcane altar, which is the one with the foresight that gives the lightning reflexes to everything within 6 inches. Next to the halberdiers, there is another unit of 10 handgunners with a musician. Then there is a unit of heavy infantry, the swordsman with light armor, shield, and the sword. They have the gleaming icon on their full command. Behind that is a Imperial Rocketeers. And next to it is a steam tank. Yep, and there's just a better picture of my steam tank, which is awesome with its little smoke coming out. Makes me very happy. I do need to get a chariot base to go under it, though, because playing without it was a little confusing here. So, Empire of Sonnstahl takes the first turn, and I figure, you know what, I'll make the chariot go up a little bit, or the steam tank go up a little bit, but my dice rolls are garbage, so I'll go ahead and roll 3 dice. And it went shooting the hell out the front. So I don't really have the speed to keep up with it. So I guess I'm just going to let it go forward and see what happens is ultimately the plan. You see here I moved the handgunners and the swordsman just a little bit because I dropped first and then he pulled this I'm going to drop everything in the corner trick, and I am not really ready for it at the moment. So the rest of my first turn movement is basically just kind of starting to reorient my lines. I really can't afford to let any of those big hitty units that he's got get into my flank, so I've got to face them heads up. For magic, I do decide to go ahead and push him out by throwing a Wrath of God right in front of his lines. So I'm hoping he will take advantage of that invitation and get the hell out of that corner and come meet me. And then I just started throwing some spells around willy-nilly. Got +5 ward in close combat on these guys, which will matter nothing. And I go into some shooting. I think my bowman kill one of the dogs. And then it's Beast Herd's turn 1. And as you can see, in his movement, he is trying to get away from the Wrath of God. So he starts running out. He's going to need at least one more movement turn to get away, because right now it is the token is just right behind his Longhorn unit, so even if it hits there, it should still do pretty good damage. Now, unbeknownst to me at the time, he's got magic resistance on both of the units that matter, so that'll be a little less scary, but I didn't know that because we play with closed lists. And then he ambushes everything in that weak flank I was worried about. And I'm really hating the fact that the steam tank decided to put on rocket boosters and run like hell. Of course, who knows, maybe it saw what was coming. And these guys pop back here, and now I'm worried because this is not only my weak flank, but really the only thing other than the tank that I've got to hold things down here is in the front of that swordsman unit. I forgot to talk about it. I actually have an Inquisitor with the Axe of Battle, so she's pretty set to put a hurting on somebody, but I was kind of hoping to point her at something more dangerous than these Wildhorn guys. And here is just his movement. He conga lines his one dogs around, trying to hide them behind the ruin without really succeeding. And I can't tell if he moved the other dogs, but he's just leaving them there. I don't think he wants to move them up until he needs to try and chaff me. So we'll see if that works for him. And then his magic goes off. Realizing that he could potentially be in trouble, he drops the +1 toughness buff on his Wild Horns here to help protect him from the Wrath of God. And then we go into Empire turn 2. I decide that it's going to be a little while before those chariots can get into anything. Oh, I also forgot he has a Briar Beast in that forest. He dropped it last turn, but I'm not worried about it at the moment. So I decide to turn around and slam the steam tank into this group. Now, I'm not entirely sure how it works, and this is part of where the confusion of the chariot base went in. But I know once you, basically with random movement, you just turn and point the model towards something and it goes. But I don't know if when it hits something, if you close the door to it, or if it just fights where it hit. After a little talking, the gut decision was kind of, we closed the door and it turned out being a flank charge here. But if that is not the case, somebody please let me know in the comments. I would certainly appreciate it. Back here, I decide that I need to do a swift reform and move up into the face of the wild horns that are closer to my rocket, because I really need the rocket battery to do some damage to those minotaurs, because it's about the only answer I have to them. I also turn and bring the buff wagon over so that it can help out those swordsmen, and I have turned my general to look at that other unit too, so if I need to bring him over there to deal with things, I can do so next turn. And everything else here, I'm just kind of drawing the line in the sand, knowing that he's going to be coming for me sooner or later. I kind of want to get ready for it. The mistake I did make here is I really probably should have put the Imperial Guard a little bit further behind the Halberdiers, making them the better target, because this Imperial Guard is going to do a lot better in the flanks of anything than taking it face on, I think. I also decided that I would run back with my bowman and hide behind the lines so that my wizard could do some more magicking. At least that's the hope. And he does. He drops another Wrath of God right here in front of the line. So he's got one behind the line, one in front of the line. The one behind the line has 2 tokens on it now because it didn't go off last turn. So I'm pretty happy with that. Or at least I would be if it weren't for the fact that I pushed it forward with 4 dice and miscast it, which means it counted as I miscast with 5 dice, and I miscast 20, blew the unit up, and killed my wizard. Turn 2. The miscast of doom strikes, and I'm nervous now. And then the Wrath comes down, and I find out that he has magic resistance. As you can see, he loses 1, 2, 3, 4 wild horns, and I think a Minotaur takes a wound. It was really, really sad. Hoping that the one that my wizard gave his life for will be better, we go on. And we go into shooting, and my gunmen on this side blow the dogs to hell, except for the one that panics and is running off towards Skip's cell phone to call for help. I also managed to successfully drop a rocket on the Minotaurs and kill 2 whole Minotaurs with it, which is excellent. And then we go into combat. Obviously, these wild horns can't put a dent in the steam tank. The steam tank kills, 3, 6, 8 of them, but they're steadfast and stick. Beast Herd's turn 2. He decides to come mix it up with the swordsman, which is fine. I think the swordsmen are at a disadvantage here. Parry is good, but I'm really relying on the secret of my Inquisitor here to open up a can and hopefully deal with these guys. Because apparently Skip moved the phone so it couldn't call for help, but it did not go off the board this turn. And he brings the Briar Beast out of the forest because he sees a tasty chance to get close to my my buff wagon. And he moves up the dogs to provide a screen from my gunmen so he can start moving his guys up without worrying about getting shot. And he does. So the beast herds just decide to come on straight through the forest. The Minotaurs are circling around the ruin. I think he's picking my great weapons, Imperial Guard, as his target for the Minotaurs, and I can't really say I blame him there. And this is kind of why I was annoyed with myself that I moved them all up as a straight line instead of staggering it a little bit. But we'll kind of see where that takes us. And over here, he decided not to make the charge with the chariots into the back of the steam tank because he didn't think he would do a lot of damage with it. And it was going to be a long charge anyway, so he decided to move them up a bit, and maybe a better target will present itself on his next turn. And then he decides to pop some magic and starts off with the +1 to toughness on the Minotaurs. And then we go to combat, and holy hell did my Inquisitor come through. She started butchering dudes left, right, and down the center. I did lose a whole rank and some change, but after she was done putting a hurting on them, the swordsman finished some more. I win the combat, the wild horns break and run off the table, and then I turn around to face the Briar Beast and the big unit of Longhorns that are coming in. And over here, we still continue to churn. Obviously, he's not getting through the armor, but I'm not killing him fast enough to get rid of the whole unit. He needed... I think he's stuck here, which would be really obnoxious, but I think that's what happened. So we go to my turn 3. I decide to go ahead and take advantage of the flank offered to me by the Briar Beast to charge my swordsman in. And I think I moved back with everybody. And again, I'm not thinking overly clearly, so I moved them back evenly. I probably should have let the halberdiers a little forward again to kind of draw the attack that way, but I'm kind of sitting on my shoulders here and not playing this game terribly well. Thinking that he's, even with that he's still going to go for the larger model count, I go ahead and pop the 5+ ward in close combat. And I do some shooting. You can see that the Wrath of God has 3 counters on it now because it's just not coming back, or not coming by. I do some shooting at the Longhorns and take out, I guess that's 2 of them. It's pretty inconsequential at this point. I think that was with the handgunners, so I'm shooting like through cover and still ended up killing a couple. So I dropped the rocket on the Minotaurs one more time. It's not nearly as effective because of the added toughness, but I'm okay with peeling off yet another one. And finally in combat, the steam tank finishes off the last 4 of the wild horns and is ready to go mix it up with somebody else. Over here, the Briar Beast is nothing to my Inquisitor. The Inquisitor kills it before it gets to swing, and I reform to look as you see. And Beast Herd's turn 3 starts off with a bad day for some Imperial Guard. Yeah, that Alpha Bull and those Minotaurs are going to wreck some face over there. And finally, the dog fails to rally and runs off the board. And the chariots come slamming into the back of the steam tank. I don't remember if this is just a die or if maybe they did take a wound. This actually might be after combat. That's what it is. Yep, they slam into the back of the steam tank and do 1 wound. I don't think I do anything back. Over here, he also charged, and I guess I didn't get a picture of this, charged with his longhorns into my swordsman. They get rocked. I do some damage back, but I stick here for the moment. He also charged his dogs into my handgunners, which I didn't care about. Because the handgunners showed up and punished those puppies like they were Old Yeller. And I end up killing them and overrunning because I'm trying to get breakthrough and these guys score, so I need to get them onto the other side. And I have at this point forgotten about the Wrath of God that they're running straight forward to. And here are bad things happening. He kills the whole unit, um, and my BSB, and I kill 2 Minotaurs. I still have a rank left. He gets 2 stomps. If he can succeed with both of them, I'm not steadfast and I break, and he fails to wound with both stomps. During his magic phase, he put like a spell on him that gave him an additional attack and +2 to their armor pierce. It was pretty ridiculous. But I stuck just by random luck because he couldn't quite kill the 2 guys left he needed to break me a steadfast. I'm still screwed next turn here, so it doesn't really change anything, just the timetable. But it was nice to take out a couple more Minotaurs before they get into something else. And Empire of Sonnstahl turn 4. He also had Break the Spirit off last turn on my Halberdiers, so that's why there's a lot of them missing. Because I charge everything I've got at this Wild Horn unit. I need them dead before the Minotaurs free themselves up. So I throw the General, the Buff Wagon for the impact hits, and my Halberdiers into the flank, and I just gotta hope that it's enough. And at this point, the gunners are like, holy crap, the Wrath of God is coming, run! And the other gunners are like, Minotaurs are coming, run! And they're just hauling ass to the other side of the field so that I can get those points for the objective. Over here, we go into combat, and I don't take any more wounds, but I do grind enough to kill a chariot and do 2 more wounds onto another one. So the steam tank wins, and the chariots turn and run off. And it was enough. I end up busting up that Longhorn unit real good. I don't take out either of the characters, but I beat them bad enough where they turn and break, and they run to go sit right next to the Wrath of God, and I'm cool with that. This actually might be his next turn after he failed to rally. I think that is what it is, because his chariots have turned around. But yeah, so I'm hoping the Wrath will just come down and wipe him off the board and save me the trouble. So yeah, it looks like that last picture was the first one. Yeah, needless to say, the Alpha Bull and the remaining Minotaur smushed the great swords, and I don't know, he may not have killed him because I think he had to overrun or had to pursue like the 2 inches that we both rolled because it was garbage. And so I think he was able to reform this turn. So we go into Empire of Sonnstahl turn 5 because the Beastmen have very little else to do. Steam Tank goes forward to mix it up with chariots again. And my gunners are still running for the border. And over here, between the reforms and the moves for this turn, this is kind of how the line is set up now. I'm really with 1 swordsman and the Inquisitor with some wounds on her. They're just chaff at this point, so I'm kind of putting them up. I had to move the chariot the way I did, and it's stupid that I did so because it's too easy a charge for the Minotaurs, and I didn't get him out of the good line of sight. But if he does hit those, I'm thinking I might be able to counterattack with my General and maybe accomplish something, but I'm not entirely sure what at this point. I also realize that I'm too close to the Wrath of God, which has like 5 counters on it now. So I swift reform the Halberdiers and run them away rather than leave them there. I figure I've got enough other stuff as chaff. I can afford to take this risk to not get them blown up by my own spell. And it was good timing. The Wrath comes down, and it comes down like a beast. Unfortunately, the magic resistance on the actual Beast Herds unit means he only loses 1 model from a 5 counter comet. I lose all but 2 of my yellow gunners over there, you can see. But his chariots were just within range of the range roll, and it blew them all off the board, so took care of the steam tank's work for it. And there, as you can see, the steam tank looking a little confused as to why the chariots just exploded due to the Wrath of God. Beast herds turn 5. They charge the chariot. I choose the chariot to flee, and I rolled really high, and he ran off the board. So he redirected into the swordsman and the the Inquisitor. They run. I'm hoping that next turn I'll be able to hit them with the order for steady men, so that if they rally, they can move back out as separate pieces and set up a double flee to keep the Minotaurs away. But that's kind of risky at this point. These guys fail to rally again and keep running. Apparently the Minotaurs, or the Beast herds, have had enough of this bullshit and are going home. So Empire turn 6, exactly what I expected to happen. I got the steady men, rallied the Inquisitor and the Swordsman, which was super awesome. Moved them up, and then tried to move the steam tank closer so it could get a good shot on the Minotaurs. And I rolled amazingly again, and the stupid steam tank ran out in front of everybody. So at this point, my opponent has a lot of tasty options to charge that basically makes my double flee setup completely pointless. So way to go. I'm thinking he's probably going to go for the steam tank because it's the best points over there. And then over here, my guys finally, after 3 turns of running, managed to make it into my opponent's deployment zone, so I will get the scenario points. And we end up doing some shooting and put 1 wound on a single Minotaur. And then we go into Beast Herds turn 6, and my opponent does something that I don't think either of us expected, and I don't think he was thinking overly clearly about. Like I said, I thought he was going to go after the steam tank. He just thought that he couldn't get through the armor, and knew that I was going to set up a double flee if he went after the characters there, so he decided to go after the rocket launcher. Problem is his Minotaurs haven't lost a fight yet, so they're still frenzied. And this is bottom of turn 6. So what's going to happen is he kills the rocket launcher, and then runs off the board, and the game ends. So I get the points for the Minotaur unit and the Alpha Bull, which certainly has a huge impact because that's a lot of points in that unit. And I mean, it certainly wouldn't have turned it into a win, but it would have had a big impact instead of, in essence, tabling himself. But it was a good game, and we will go on to the end narrative now. Bazcog listened to the reports of the humans' trek into herd lands. Another enemy to conquer, and more flesh to be eaten was his first thought. It was then that he began to realize what was happening. The elves were getting reinforcements from the human lands. They had ceased hostility with the mountain dwarves, and would most likely join with the sylvan folk as well. Bazcog loved battle, but he also realized when things might be against him. He could not show weakness and lose his hold on the herds, but he also knew what overwhelming forces could be mounted against him. "Morgoth," Bazcog called to his scout commander.
"Yes, master?"
The small mongrel responded, running up to the Beast Lord. "I need you to follow the path to the portal stone. Alert me when the Saurians return. I need to speak with their leader."
"Master?"
Morgoth replied. "Do it, and send Kempek to me. It is time he and I spoke of his actions."
"As you wish."
Bazcog knew the Saurians would not listen at first, but perhaps a show of strength would cause them to pause. And if Kempek survived, perhaps something could be arranged. And if he didn't, one last thorn out of his side would be very welcome. Alright, so, yeah, this was turned into a pretty big victory for the Empire of Sonnstahl. But I definitely say this is a good sign that my opponent is getting better, because I feel like it was a much more hard-fought victory than some of our more previous games. Um, he was definitely being a little more wily, and certainly the wrecking ball that is that Minotaur unit and the Alpha Bull does not hurt. Um, he did good in tricking me in deployment. Um, I think if he had maybe pushed up a little harder, he might have on that weak flank that was like right next to him, he might have been in a little bit better position to really make the Minotaurs just absolutely ruin my universe. Uh, but as it was, he did good. He got a lot of points. If we were doing something like Brawler Bash, he wouldn't do bad. But with the 20-0 system, it did come out to 20-0, mainly because of the last mistake with the Minotaurs when he chose to charge, and the fact that his unit with his general couldn't rally at the end. It was down to less than 25%, so it was running at half leadership, and there was just nothing that he could do to make them stop. In terms of me, this is the first time I played Empire of Sonnstahl in a while. I definitely enjoy it. There's some things I really do like about playing it. I kind of wish that my general had done a little more, because he's just sitting there being pretty on a bird, which I guess there's nothing wrong with that, but it would have been nice for him to do something other than the single charge that he he had with into the Longhorns. But what can you say? But I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I do want to take a quick minute and thank folks for supporting me on my Patreon. I do have two new supporters. The first is Peter Voss, or Voss, I'm not sure, because he's one of those interesting European gentlemen who every country seems to pronounce their W's differently. But he is an avid viewer of mine and has chosen to give me his patronage, and I certainly appreciate that. And my second new patron is Sylvanus Ironwood. I'm using his screen name because he has not given me clearance to use his real name. But again, a longtime viewer of the channel, and I certainly appreciate your patronage as well. And for both of you, I hope that I continue to live up to it and that you enjoy my videos in the future. For anybody else who would like to go onto my Patreon, I have set one up. It is just under the channel name, Materum. There's a few interesting little rewards for different levels of patronage. So if you would like to go on there and help support me, I would certainly appreciate it. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we will catch you on the next one. Bye now.